Hello, hello, hello. Hooligan Soccer podcast coming at you with, as ever, the world's greatest dad, the Qooligan, and myself, Gary Striker. Good morning, Qooligan. How are you?
Good morning, Striker. I am the world's greatest dad. And stop. Otherwise, I'm doing great.
Great to hear. Great to hear. It looks
Otherwise,
like
I'm doing just fine. Thank you.
you've been busy. You've been churning out a lot of articles that I had some tears in my eyes reading about your Tottenham AZ Alkmaar cheese jokes as well. Your dad jokes about the cheese as well. That was absolutely hilarious. So I've been busy. And you must be really enjoying life if you're watching Europa Conference League soccer matches and watching Spurs lose as well. Then life must be really good.
Listen, full disclosure, I didn't have to watch that turtlet. Okay, I mean it once I saw The Wire keeps me informed of things, and I saw a lot coming through, and I went, oh wow, and then just realizing the intersection of it being Alkmaar. Oh, I mean, it's in the Netherlands, there's an expression: "By Alkmaar begint de victory," right? Which means with Alkmaar starts the victory, the win, because it was a pivotal moment in the 80 Years' War for those people who love their European clashes. I digress. Yeah, that was a great. I mean, that was hilarious. That was absolutely hilarious. And yes, of course, cheese jokes were required.
What,
It had to be.
Thick and gooey cheese jokes coming thick
Why
and
not?
fast. Loved it.
Why
Absolutely.
not?
Wonderful.
Alkmaar is one of the five remaining traditional cheese markets in the Netherlands, and so yeah, why not?
It had to be done. Well, moving on from cheesy topics, we will get into this week's agenda. So we've got going to touch obviously on the Premier League game week 28 as the season sort of is marching towards into its last 10 game weeks as well. So that's got exciting. There's some good games. There's some news as well around the world, and particularly as well around from the MLS. And then obviously we'll be covering MLS game week 2 as well. We've got a couple of interesting picks there.
And I want to give a last minute shout out. I'm going to devote the last minute of this podcast to promoting one of my favorite leagues, which I think is underserved, which is the USL Championship, which is in the United States' second division, which starts on Saturday, March 8th.
It comes out on Saturday. Okay,
well, it does. It begins on Saturday, and I'm going to give you a little learning there, Mr. Gary Striker, as to some things that you can watch when you're not watching anyone else.
I look forward to it. Well, let's save that to the back end. So let's dive straight in. Premier League game week 28. We have obviously a number of interesting fixtures here. I think a couple of the picks are sort of the games that sort of stand out for me. Definitely, I think the first one is the Nottingham Forest Manchester City game, which is the early kickoff on Saturday, I believe. Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
And just looking at the league, you've essentially got third versus fourth there. And what is interesting for me, what I think is, again, just trying to pick a winner here or sort of pick up any sort of narratives here, is it seems like Forest, who have just gone in this incredible run, had a wonderful run of form. They are everyone's sort of, new favorite underdogs to be sort of that everyone's rooting for, because they've got themselves into a phenomenal position. They've really overachieved, but yet have wobbled a little bit of late. Their form has been loss, win, loss, draw. So they're sort of on a bit of shaky ground. But then, of course, going up against Manchester City, who also, as well, we would expect to run away with the league, but have not. So So what's your take on this, Qooligan? Do you think this is going to be a fun game or a stale draw?
No, I mean, I think it should, as a fixture goes, I think it should be lively and full of drama. Both sides are more than capable of bringing a scintillating performance. The only question remains: what does it really matter in the long run for each of these teams? It's critical in order to qualify for European soccer, right, for the Champions League in 26. So sure, both sides have something to prove. I think City perhaps needs it more, but Forest must show that their mid-season excellence was not an anomaly, but actually representative of the club's true potential, if you get my drift. So, there's a lot on the line. And you're right. You're correct to highlight this as the important fixture of this game week, which, frankly, this game week's a bit of a blah. It's kind of, we've been out, they're back. Some teams have rested, some teams played FA Cup, some teams had some European things. It all sort of comes back in. There's not a lot of momentum going into this game week. And with Liverpool's achievements prior to the break, there's a little bit of steam came out of that engine because now Liverpool has control of their own destiny.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
all eyes on Liverpool. They're playing lowly Southampton. It should be a win. But this is a canary in the coal mine scenario, right? Liverpool cannot afford to take any game in the Premier League lightly until they have hit the magic number of 7. When they hit 7, all bets are off. They can just cruise, play the kids.
Yeah.
By the way, it's fantastic for Crystal Palace, who finish up last game week against Liverpool. I'm expecting them to put on a bunch of pensioners.
Yeah.
They're going to pull some pensioners out of retirement, put them on the field.
Yeah.
A couple of 12-year-olds from their youth. It's going to be great.
Well, listen, I think in Palace's defense, I don't think you guys are going to get sucked into a relegation battle. So I think you guys are safe. And just how high up can you get to the table and get some of that prize money? And I think
there is a scenario, Gary. There is a scenario where Crystal Palace could qualify for Europe.
Oh,
it is not mathematically impossible.
But then qualify. Obviously, we're not talking Champions League football here. We're talking Europa League.
Well, hell no. Champions League football, though.
That's gone. Yeah.
I don't get high on my own supply, Gary. I'm a fan of Crystal Palace, but I am not a Crystal Palace zealot by any stretch. No, I am tempered by reality that we may be able to qualify for Europa.
Go on a late run
with a lot of help and a little bit of.
You'd need to go on a serious run and get some results going your way as well. But
we need a lot of other teams to completely crap the bed.
That's what you would need, right?
But,
it's possible.
They're showing that there's been some remarkable affinity for bed pooping this season.
There has been a lot of that. There's been a lot
of people who have just tripped over their own feet, put any sort of disastrous analogy that you wish in there. It's been fun, to be honest with you. It's been fun to watch.
It's been a fun season if you're looking about it like that in terms of the slip-ups. What I think an ideal situation would be is you have 2 or 3 teams at the top sort of fighting it out for a Champions League run-in, right? It does get a bit sort of, I'm not going to say boring, but, Liverpool, who are, what is that? 13 points clear. Sure, Arsenal have a game in hand, so a potential 10 points clear. There's such daylight between the first and second. Then the focus comes onto who finishes in the top or the next sort of 2nd to 5 to get those Champions League spots. And then also looking down at the bottom on the relegation side, again, between Ipswich, who are in 18th, and Wolves, who are in 17th, there's a 5-point gap there. So again, there's also a bit of daylight between the bottom 3 and sort of 17th place. So all of a sudden, the attention I think the relegation sort of are kind of close to locked in. Obviously, maybe there's going to be some changes there. And obviously, we know it looks like Liverpool are pretty much all but certain champions. So who can sort of grab those remaining Champions League spots and European spots, and how does it all finish out, right?
You mentioned slip-ups, Gary, so I have a feeling you were trying to segue into Manchester United. So, was that your plan, or am I just reading too much into your word choice?
I think more shitting the bed was probably sort of the segue that I was trying to get to and sort of arc it into Manchester United, because that's how I would sort of classify it. I wouldn't call Manchester United a slip-up. I think a catastrophe would be fighting relegation. It looks like they're pretty safe now. They're probably going to be covered. But Man United against Arsenal, this is, again, Arsenal, what do they have to play for now? I think top four is probably guaranteed for them. I don't think they're going to catch Liverpool. So do they focus on the Champions League?
Well,
but again,
they can't catch Liverpool because the fact remains, all Liverpool need to do is win
magic seven.
Arsenal could be perfect.
Yeah. They still won't catch them.
Absolutely perfect. Not drop a game. Still lose the title. So, yes. Do they have something to play for? Sure, they've got pride, and they've got, they want to try and get Arteta's face a little less pinched and angry.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it'll work, but sure.
Yeah, I think. Well, this is. I was reading about how Arteta's going to start coming under pressure now because he's been given a lot of resources to go and sort of, go and make a charge and win the trophy, win the Premier League. And he's always just come short each year, almost seasons. And still, apart from sort of, I think it's 2 FA Cups that he's won, I think. I don't know if he's going to get, I don't think he's going to sort of, they're going to make a change. I think the ownership probably sticks with him and sort of gives them sort of a striker because that's what they need. The one thing I will say about Arsenal is, I know we were talking about this earlier on in the week, that it was their Champions League game. They scored 7, I believe. It was 7, is that right? They put 7 past. Yes. Was it Feyenoord or it was PSV, not Feyenoord? Yeah, they put 7 past them, and we were saying they look pretty toothless, and how are they going to score goals? But they seem to just be able to just knock them in from sort of many different sort of areas of the field and many different players. So I don't think Arsenal have the striking problem that maybe we all seem to think that they have.
I disagree. Okay. Not because scoring 7 that was a great achievement. It was PSV, and I no disrespect to the Eredivisie or to PSV, who's normally a very strong team. They had an off day. I think it is an anomalous result. It is not an answer to the question of, does Arsenal need a striker? They do.
A fit striker, yes, absolutely. Or
they do. They need someone up front consistently who can turn in goals. And this one game does not a solution make under any circumstances.
That's fair. So looking at this Arsenal-Man United match and fix up, and again, this used to be sort of the fixture of the season a number of years ago because they were both sort of such dominant teams. Are we kind of both aligned here in thinking that this is probably an easy one for Arsenal, a sort of easy 2-3-0, or do you think something else could happen here?
I think it should be an easy Arsenal 2-3-0, but will it be? Great question. I mean, Man U's at home, where they are, and they have traditionally not been excellent. That, I think, is to Arsenal's advantage. Ironically, it should be that Old Trafford used to be a miserable place to travel. You never wanted to go there. Now you're looking forward. You are booking your coach tickets in advance, thinking, all right, this is going to be a holiday.
Yeah.
No. But Man U is, what to say about them? They're so just rudderless. They're so rudderless. They made a play. They pulled in a spicy Portuguese captain, right? A seasoned Portuguese captain who just can't steer that ship.
Steer it, yeah. Can't steer it. Yeah.
And I don't think we'll have the luxury of implementing his vision.
So you think they'll make a change?
I don't think they'll make a change this season, but I think they'll make a change in the off season.
Yeah, I think they'll probably get through to the end of the season and then assess, or if they're not doing this right. Yeah.
That's right. And maybe they'll surprise us. Maybe Amarim's got some deep thinking, next level future planning, and he can convince Ineos and Ratcliffe to give him more time. I'm a little skeptical on that one.
But the interesting thing with Man United is he's going to plead for time and say, I want to rebuild the squad. But looking at the decision making that's been going on sort of on the upper level, where they're cutting staff, they're limiting sort of canteen budgets, that would be indicative that they don't have the available funds, particularly on a sort of FFP or PSR, to actually go and spend. So you're going to have to sell to buy, but again, like, who's going to want to go and buy it? Well, I mean, Man U
they can't sell. Casemiro won't go because he's fine. You can cut the canteen staff, but he's, living on caviar and champagne with this $350,000 a week.
Yeah,
please.
Yeah,
they're still paying a portion of Rashford's salary, right? Yeah, Aston Villa didn't pick up that whole paycheck, so they're still paying for someone else's meal there. No, it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty what happens in the offseason in Manchester, but I don't think he goes before then.
No, okay.
Unless they get completely if Arsenal puts 7 up against Manchester United at home, he's gone. I'm sorry, he's gone. He has to be. They'll have to take some kind of action.
Then who takes who? But again, who do they go and try and convince to sort of take over the rudderless ship, as you called it? And why would anyone want to take that when you know that you're inheriting a rotten sort of squad team that needs a rebuild? And is there the funds? Is there the money for it? And some of the decision making that's going on. I just it doesn't look pretty at the moment. And I sort of don't like to always be shitting on Man United, but it is a little bit fun to see this happening finally. But who takes that gig? Why would you want to take that gig?
I got a hot take for you, Gary.
Here we go. Go on. Exclusive from the Qooligan. Let's hear it.
Ratcliffe has got some of his shadow people going around and kidnapping Sir Alex Ferguson's grandchildren. And they're going to force that guy out of retirement and into the sidelines, and he's going to fix everything. You heard it here first. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, there we go. Well, they could if they really wanted to resurrect the ghost of Alex Ferguson. Isn't his son Darren Ferguson is the manager of it's Peterborough? Is it Peterborough or one of the who was the? Remember, he manages Ashley Young's son. Do you remember? He's anyway. Darren Ferguson is a manager.
I gotta say, Gary, that's great research. I'm very impressed because I didn't know that.
Yeah,
good on you, mate. Good on you. That was well played. That was well played.
We'll see. Okay, so the expectation there is Arsenal probably sort of should comfortably walk away with that 2-3-0. Maybe Arsenal, maybe Man United sneak a goal, but I just don't have much hope for Man United at the moment. Okay, and then the other pick that we're also looking at, which could be interesting, is Spurs against Bournemouth. And the reason I picked this one and I liked it, because again, Bournemouth are genuinely up there and fighting for that Champions League capability. Their form has been a little bit sloppy as of late. After the last 5 games, they've lost 3. But Bournemouth have also kind of played well this season and done quite well. So, and then Spurs with their, as you would call it, Spursiness. If you look at their form, they lost obviously to the Cheese Barons in Alkmaar last night, but also as well, they've won 3 of their last 5 games as well in the Premier League. So again, the Spursiness of ups and downs, you just don't know what Spurs you're going to get with Angeball, right? So yeah, this will be an interesting one to watch.
Yeah. I believe in Alkmaar they prefer to call them Kosmeisters.
Kosmeisters, the cheese masters.
The cheese masters, yes.
The cheese masters or masters.
Which is an actual position. It is an actual civic position in the city of Alkmaar.
Yeah, you are the meister of cheese.
Don't ask me how I know this, but just let's move on. Got to get away from the cheese. This is killing me because I'm getting hungry, and coffee. It's like no,
I smell a lot of dad jokes on the horizon. That's for sure. Cheesy dad jokes.
Nobody wants to catch a whiff of that. So no, okay. I agree with you. Spurs and Bournemouth is a good fixture, and normally I would have Spurs at home. I'd say, hey, this is going to be theirs. Ange needs a result, though. He will do everything in his power to try and get Tottenham to win this game. They have to win.
Yeah.
That result against Alkmaar puts them up against it. It's not pretty.
Yeah.
It's not a done deal for him yet, right? Let's be very clear.
Yeah.
But if he drops Bournemouth, and then they get and of course they're knocked out of Europa League, there's no future for him at that club. There's nothing. There's no amount of whatever he does to Daniel Levy in the boardroom is going to save him. Levy is going to be forced to do something.
But this is the thing that's going around where the narrative seems to be churning. Whereas it seems like the Spurs fans aren't as pissed at Ange, it's more Levy because of, that again, you've seen all
sure.
sort of
So what are they going to do? Fire the owner? We all know that's not going to happen.
He's not the owner. He's like the sort of the direct. He runs it basically. He's the CEO of it. I think it's an American guy who actually owns Spurs. So he's got a stake in it as well. But yeah, I don't think he's. So he again, there is rumblings amongst the sort of Spurs community that maybe it's time for Levy to roll out and sort of get there. The interesting thing though is Spurs are probably one of the when I say best well runs, I can't say best well, one of the most well-run clubs in the Premier League from a business perspective in terms of salary and revenue in and salaries out. They're profitable, which is profitable. So from the owner's perspective, and again, I believe he's an American guy, you're probably happy with this as well. You're not burning shit tons of cash, or you're not sort of, have all the trophies rolling around the place as well. And that's part of it, but you're a profitable enterprise and obviously sort of a growing business as well. So I think Levy probably survives. And
from a pure business perspective, you make a lot of sense, Gary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
it's a sport, not a business, isn't it? Yeah.
I get it, but as from a sporting and fan perspective, that's utter shite.
Yep, it is indeed. You don't want that.
Just going to say it right now. I'm going to take the side of the sporting general populace here. Gary, you can take the side of the Tony cash and the elite private clubs with their leather chairs and whiskey tumblers. I'm going to be sticking with my fish and chips and pints of lager. Seems like it should be on the other foot, but hey, that's so it goes. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you on that one. It's
it's look. I agree. Obviously, you want to looking at it from the sporting perspective, not the business side. But there is that balance. It is the business of sport, isn't it? It's part of it. So yeah. Okay.
Sure. But I also suspect. Well, I got to also be very clear. I don't think Ange has been doing a very good job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but the
results
performance and his team's performance, his demeanor, he's taken to now publicly lambasting his team. Amorim is taking to publicly lambasting his team. It's like when the managers start calling into question players' efforts. And Andrew's always, that was the only thing he could say. Our lads played strong today.
Yeah.
Lads played great. Lads were put in a lot of effort. He's not even saying that anymore. Now he's going, well, we're not quite good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Trouble in the locker room, kids. Trouble in the locker room.
That is not good when
I mean, an Amorim has all but said to his team, if you don't impress me, you're out. I'm going to kick you out.
Well, I think I think a lot of them will say, great, yeah, I want to get out of here. Right? That's good.
Except Casemiro. Casemiro's like, he's sitting up there with his posh with his gold slippers and his cigar, pipe. And he's just going, hey, yeah, no problem.
I'm good. Hey, we've got an offer. We've got an offer for you to go back to Brazil. No, I'm good. I'm happy living here in Manchester.
It's hot. I'm going to get kicked. No, I don't think so.
No, I'm okay here. I'm happy taking my 350 or 350K a week, right? Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
My kids are in a nice public school. They're getting good grades. No way.
Exactly.
Don't think so.
No, I'm good. I'll ride this gravy train for another couple of years and then I'll go back to Brazil, right? That'll be it. So anyway. Okay, so that will be, I think that's going to be an interesting one to call. I think it depends what team turn up, right? Again, Spurs could go there and run over them 5-0, but at the same time, they could also get run over 2-0 as well. So that will be an interesting one to call out.
I think Bournemouth actually takes this. I really do think. So Bournemouth they squeaked it, right? In the FA Cup.
Yeah.
So they've got the momentum. Spurs didn't squeak it. So yeah. It's like, they're not in. We're done.
Spurs do seem to have some relief a little bit on the injury front as well, right? They are getting some players back, so there is some relief, right?
You'd think that, except that let's just look to see how all those injured players performed at Alkmaar.
Well, you got. Oh, wow.
See, look, now it's even raining on me now.
It's raining on you, French.
AI sucks.
Okay. And then in terms of that, any other sort of fixtures on the Premier League while we're still here? I think we've covered
I think it's, let's move on to the MLS. Let's move on to the MLS. Because
the only one I will call out is obviously just, Chelsea against Leicester. And it's just, you've got Enzo Maresca going back to his old club as well, or his old club coming.
Sure. Yeah, that's
Chelsea
it.
as well. We'll see what
Emotionally,
happens.
great call. Great pull.
There's a line there, but again, Leicester sort of, again, pretty much all but down. So it's again, you'd expect
It's a must win for them. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, in a game of in a series of must win fixtures, that's a must win. Similarly, Ipswich have to beat Palace. I don't think they will.
Yep.
Mateta's out, but they've got enough backup.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So let's move on to the other side of the Atlantic, and then obviously sort of look at the MLS in game week 3 now. We've got a couple of picks here as well that I think are definitely some interesting narrative and lines. I think let's start with, for me, which is the biggest and the most sort of game I'll be looking out for, which is Inter Miami against Charlotte. I think that will be sort of the one I'll be following the most and definitely most interested in there. Obviously Charlotte, sort of picking up Zaha, obviously sort of finally coming off and sort of coming onto the pitch and performing, getting the man of the match. And then, of course, going up against Inter Miami, who obviously have got off to an okay start this season as well. Messi, again, in midweek in the the CONCACAF Champions Cup, did not play against the very, very young Cavalier side.
And very, very good Cavalier side. I've got to, they lost 2-0, but honestly, should have. I mean, yes, that goal, their first goal was called back by the slimmest of excuses, and most of which were probably Infantino frantically calling the VAR booth saying, "I will give you each $100,000 if you overturn that goal."
Yeah.
And if you think I'm joking, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not. I would not put it past that man to have done something like that. But no,
think that.
Great job, Cavaliers.
Yeah, they did well. So
They really did. They really did.
So Charlotte against Miami here, they are both obviously sitting on 4 points on the Eastern Conference here. It's going to be a good game here. I think this, as I say, I think for me is the pick of the weekend. Definitely sort of the best sort of most entertaining one. So yeah, just curious, any sort of thoughts on sort of outcome of here or results or any other narratives as well that you see around this?
I think it all depends on whether Messi plays.
Mm-hmm.
He has, they have been resting him. And I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that they've rested him because he did play that. He played 3 games within a 7-day period in some, with that one in the extreme cold, and then with a lot of emotion against NYCFC. So, and we still do not know whether or not him sitting on the sidelines has been because he is resting, or was that the punishment he received for grabbing the opposing coach by the neck? Because they never publicized what happened. They said they fined him.
They fined him an undisclosed amount. Yes.
But could something else have been at play there? We don't know. And they're never going to tell us. So fine.
Yeah.
Let the conspiracy theories go. In any event, I think he plays. He has to. He's now been out for 2 games. I think he comes out from his fancy little private box in Fort Lauderdale, comes down to the field, gives the crowd a little
away. I'm just reading a quote here.
I really don't have a read on who would win the game. I'd have to give the edge to Inter. They're at home, and I think that on paper they're a better squad than Charlotte. So I would give them the edge in the head-to-head on that.
Yeah. So just an insight onto the Messi situation. Again, I was just reading a quote here that just has come up on my feed as well, which is basically Javier Mascherano, the Inter Miami manager, said, "I go by what the doctors say, and they've told me that he has no injury or any muscle strain. He is experiencing fatigue. For playing 3 games in 6 days, as you mentioned, the climate changes and many other factors." And that was in his post-game conference, right? Since we want to take care and avoid
I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it. Because it's hard to play 3 games in 6-7 days for anybody.
Yeah.
For a person of his age, it's hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just hard.
Yeah. It is. So they're resting him. They're managing him. We've discussed this as well. Obviously, they've got a long season. The World Club Cup is coming up, and obviously you saw that news as well. We were obviously discussing it a little bit as well, that they've allocated FIFA. Interestingly, have allocated a $1 billion prize pool for obviously all of the for the winners to be spread out across there. So essentially, anyone sort of getting to, I believe it's the knockout phases, will receive $100 million, which is the same level as getting into the knockout phase of the Champions League. So all of a sudden that suddenly turns up the spice and the level of interest and the level of competitiveness. So if we were ever thinking that, the big clubs that are in this are going to send their sort of reserves and take it easy, they ain't, because this is suddenly turned up the heat on it a lot.
Not anymore. You seriously think you want Busan to walk away with $100 million? I don't think so.
You can imagine. I mean, again, you could get some teams on a cup run and suddenly it'll just, wow, that's just, completely game changing as well.
It is game changing, particularly for some of these, there's the South African club.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they could make it into the knockout stages, that's it.
$100 million. Yeah.
They buy an entire league.
That's it's incredible.
They could buy Lesotho.
Buy all of their water as well and solve buy all of their water rights. Okay, so so I think Charlotte against Miami against Charlotte here as well. I think I agree with you. It depends if Messi plays, and obviously if they're managing him as well. I imagine probably what they'll do is they'll stick him on the bench and then bring him on after 60 minutes, just to again sort of just give the crowd some love, and also as well just to get him in the game, depending on the match result. But again, Miami, again, they're a really strong team. Hey, really, really strong team. And again, they've sort of had some good results even without him. So yeah. And then the other game as well that's also caught my attention as well is LA Galaxy against St. Louis. This one, and the reason why I picked this one, why I want to watch this one, is what the hell is going on with Galaxy? They are
Good question.
Bottom of the league. They are bottom of the league. They are not doing well at all, and they're obviously bottom of the league in terms of that. And then also as well, what have they done? They've won. What have they got? They're on no points. 2 games, no points, and then also lost it. And they lost in midweek as well. Is that correct? In the CONCACAF Cup,
they lost to Herediano in San Jose. Yeah,
that was it. Yeah, we were watching that one on FS2. Is this sort of, again, is this like a Manchester United, the beginnings of a Manchester United like crisis and collapse here at LA Galaxy, or is it just early season, just still getting the rust and the cobwebs off, getting match fit, and the summer fat burning off, or what are we thinking here?
It's too early to say it's the start of a long decline, but it is troubling. It's extremely troubling. That, and the fact that they are out of money. And I'm not saying that lightly. They have $0 left in their general allocation pool, which is the monies that that clubs use to trade, to buy players. They have zero, nothing. They've spent it all. Yeah. So they cannot make any moves this year without selling first. This puts them in a very difficult position. Yeah. Personnel wise. Now, they can obviously promote from their academy and they can do other things. It's not the end of the world, but it is eyebrow raising that a team that was so dominant, that set records in the postseason for goals scored, that to come out and be so limp, so anemic. Hey, it happens, but you know,
it does, but
we just have to wait. We just have to wait and see. 3 games does not a long-term disaster spell, but there are some dark clouds on the horizon.
There are, so they need to arrest that quickly. And then, so just help me understand. So I know we were talking about before. There was a sort of recently, sort of the GAM, or the general allocation money, was released, obviously, and there was the list. And you're exactly right. LA Galaxy at 0. Now, just help me understand why. And so all the other teams, I'm just looking here. There's some teams that have got, like St. Louis have got 2.6 million available. New England Revolution 300 grand. New York City 4.2 million. So I mean, what have they done? What have they spent all of their allowance on here, or what? Why is this here?
I'd have to probably do a little bit more research on that. And the GAM news came out only
an hour ago, a couple of hours ago,
a few hours before we sat down to record this. But I will be digging into this a little bit more. They spent it, and I have to go in and I honestly don't know where, because they certainly didn't appear to spend it on new players that are ripping it, that are on fire on the pitch. So I mean,
They just spent it. Where's all the money gone? I don't know. Just spent it.
Well, I mean, but
Yeah.
here's the scary thing about some of this, right? And is that so your general allocation money, or something what they call GAM money, is used for any player that is not a designated player. So, every team is allowed 3 players that are outside of the general salary cap rules that MLS has in place. So you get GAM, you get a certain amount every year. It doesn't expire, so you can build it up over time, and then you can go ahead and you can spend it. And they've also made it so that you can use GAM to sort of bypass the traditional trading windows. It's very complex stuff. But yeah, Inter Miami still has $3.1 million of GAM left at their disposal. So not only do they have these Suarez, Messi, and these Iniesta, these insane designated players, they still have $3 million that they can go out and purchase other players in. San Diego still has $4.2 million left. They've got a team that's now got 4 points. They're undefeated in their first 2 matches, and they still have money. Now, my personal opinion is a lot of that GAM money is being held in reserve because they know, or at least they were planning on the fact that they were going to have to spend in the, when the European trade windows open, to acquire some players in to help boost them towards a final run, playoff run. I still think that's their plan. But maybe they don't need to do it, or maybe they can be more selective about it. We won't know till we get there in May when all the European seasons wrap up. So, oh no, it's fascinating. And I bring up San Diego because this was one of your must-watch games, which is San Diego versus Salt Lake. Yes. Yeah. Based on Salt Lake's first week performance, I would say that San Diego would have a field day, but Salt Lake has rediscovered they've rediscovered their I don't want to say rediscovered their mojo, but they kind of put a stopgap. They've stuck their thumb in the dike of their initial season where they got eliminated from CONCACAF. They were embarrassed by Herediano, and but they at least recovered last week in the league.
Okay. And so just going back to that GAM point, $4 million to spend on players in this market. I mean, now obviously you compare that to the European leagues. I mean, you'll sort of get a packet of peanuts as well by the looks of it. I mean, $4 million doesn't really touch the sides here, right? So, I mean, this is where you then have to go.
Except that the MLS is on a totally different economic level.
Of
right?
course. Well, that's evidently right.
The highest ever GAM payment for a player was $2.5 million. And that was New England Revolution spent that to get Leo Campagna from Inter Miami.
Okay. Wow.
All right.
Okay.
The San Jose Earthquakes burned $1.4 million to get Chicho Arango, right? So they took that to lure him away from Real Salt Lake.
Yeah.
Been a very smart move for them because they're doing great, right? So San Jose Earthquakes and Chicho himself have performed really well. So great move. Maybe Bruce Arena isn't ready for the retirement home. Okay. But we'll wait and see. And then, Seattle did the same thing. They got Jesus Ferreira and Paul Arriola, right? They pulled them out of D. So the GAM money can be used, and $4 million in GAM money can get you a lot in this league. So if you're looking at it from a European lens, you're going $4 million. I mean, I can buy a 19-year-old striker from Romania, or a 19-year-old defender from Romania for that. But
that's like 3 months' salary for Casemiro, right? That's to put it into perspective, right?
That's good math, Gary. You're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah. So it's just very interesting. And then you think about it in terms of like, then on that sort of like scale, then obviously sort of Messi, considering sort of the other salary options that would have been available to him, i.e. Saudi, when he was obviously leaving PSG, he really did turn down a massive payday, which in his defense, just shows that he didn't do it for the money. He didn't do it for the money. I know there's probably other deals and sort of, I know there's the MLS and the Apple deals, and he probably had some sort of, again, future claim on a future franchise or something like that. I'm sure that all those things are floating around, but he really did, leave a lot of money on the table, which again shows he's just not doing it for the money, which is good to see.
Yeah, and also he, aside from his tax problems in Spain, which I think liberated him from quite a lot, at least a zero off of his net worth. He doesn't need the money.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
He doesn't need the money. He wants to go somewhere where he's going to have more control, and I think deep down he knows that if he's in Saudi, he doesn't have the control. The Saudis, with that money, come a lot of strings.
There comes a lot of.
Neymar was able to kind of get away with it, but we still don't know exactly what the ramifications of Neymar's shenanigans in Saudi is going to be long term.
Indeed. Yep. Okay. All right. So in terms of just going back to that other pick of the game, San Diego, Salt Lake. I mean, as I say, they've certainly picked up a new fan in me. I'm definitely rooting for them as well. I know you're still waiting for that first loss, or sort of expecting that sort of this sugar high of them starting off is going to go well. You don't hold too much hope for San Diego here, or what is your take?
No, I actually think I think San Diego's great. It's great for the league, and it's great for the sport that San Diego is doing well. It's it would be nice if their fans weren't doing asshole chanting, but what can you do, yes. Right? It's like the club took a strong stance on that, and they're going to try and stop it, but we'll see. Let's see. It would be great to see San Diego go on an incredible tear. Why not?
Yep.
No, I have nothing against San Diego. I don't particularly like the way they treated San Diego Loyal, but I'm not going to, again, business is business.
Here we go. Back to the business side of things, hey? Okay, cool. Any other picks in the MLS this weekend for you, Qooligan, or is that?
I do think. I think you have to. I think you San Jose has suddenly become must-watch television. They've got the late games, so right, if you're with your MLS, you can go watch them. They're hosting Minnesota. That could be. If Earthquakes can pull it off again at this, that would be, in my opinion, even bigger than San Diego, is the fact that they've been able to turn it around, because they were absolutely woeful. Abysmally bad last year. They set a record for worst performance in the MLS last year. So they have now won 66% in 2 games this season. They now have 66% of their total wins of last year.
Insane.
Which were
that
3.
Yeah. And then look at it the other way. And now compare that to and then they've done the inverse of LA Galaxy, basically, in that sense, right? Which is obviously, I'm not saying LA Galaxy have lost 66% of the games they've lost, but just how they've switched in terms of bottom to top, right?
It is a Cali Classico Reverso. You heard it here first.
Cali Classico Reverso. Love it. Okay, wonderful. Well, that's okay. So we'll be keeping an eye out for those games, and obviously be covering them a little bit as well, and some of the writing as well that we'll be doing. And then I think final segment here. Let's talk about your new favorite league and sort of the USL.
It's not my new favorite league. I've been following the USL for years, and I've got a local club, Oakland Roots, that I'm very passionate about, and I attended the very first Oakland Roots home game back at Laney College with about 4,500 enthusiastic Bay Area, soccer fans. It's one of those occasions where I would be sitting in the crowd and you'll hear 7, 8, 9 different languages spoken, because the Bay Area, of course, is very cosmopolitan, and we have a number of people from all over the world. I've engaged in conversations in Dutch with people from Suriname, with people from the Netherlands, and an Indonesian who also spoke Dutch. Who knows? It's great. But no, it does kick off. It does kick off this season. We've been doing a little overview on the USL. There's one last bit. 6 teams from the East is going to go live later today. But in terms of what's happening with the USL, the big news, you got 11 fixtures, 22 of the 24 teams will start. They do stream on ESPN Plus. They're also mostly on, if you're in your local area, almost all local broadcasters have broadcast deals, so you can watch it if you're local.
Okay.
There's a new team this year. We lost Memphis. Memphis 901 folded.
Okay.
At the end of last year. Lexington took their place. They get the first game of the season. They're going to host Hartford Athletic.
Okay. Yeah.
See what they've got to bring. My roots are going to travel down to Orange County and take them on. But there's a bunch of other ones. The real good match is not Lexington, but Louisville City. They were the Players Cup winner with the best record in the USL, and they're taking on one of the real old school USL veteran clubs, the Charleston Battery. Charleston is the oldest, I believe, I got to double check this, but I believe they are the oldest continual professional soccer club in the United States.
Wow.
In other words, they have been a professional club consistently. There are a lot of clubs that were founded, faded, stopped, what they call Phoenix clubs, were resurrected. But the Charleston Battery have been playing every season professionally since 1993.
Okay.
And so that's a really good fixture between two traditionally very, very strong teams. So I expect that to be quite a good matchup.
Interesting. Can I ask, and then so from your perspective, would you consider, I'm not going to say rivalry, but how would you say is the dynamic then between the MLS and then the USL? I know, because again, obviously none of the MLS teams, because it's a franchise model, there's no relegation promotion. So I know within the USL, though, there are multiple leagues. Is that correct? So there is a relegation promotion.
No, there is not.
Is that correct?
No. The USL is a closed league system as well. So,
but they do have different leagues. For
example, they do have different leagues. The USL operates three leagues, excuse me. They have the Championship, which is the top, which is the second tier. They have the League One, which is the third tier, and League Two.
Yeah.
League Two will occasionally feature, there are academy teams from the USL that are in League Two. There are also some academy and affiliate teams from MLS clubs, though most MLS academies play in what is known as MLS Next Pro. So it does get, it's a very fractured landscape with lots of teams and lots of connections and lots of affiliations. There has been a shot that has been fired over the bow of MLS because the USL 2 weeks ago announced that they will be starting their own first league tier in 2027, I believe.
Okay.
So because the tiering is decided by US Soccer. So the federation itself determines who gets to be tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and they can designate that however they wish. This new USL 1 group, and I don't know if they've settled on a name yet, will get tier 1 status alongside MLS, meaning that there will be 2 top tier professional leagues in the US. What that means in terms of, will they play each other outside of the Open Cup? I don't know. There's a lot to unpack with all of this. Needless to say, it does speak to the fact that there is at least from a business perspective, there's a lot of hunger to be putting investment and dollars into soccer in the United States right now.
Interesting.
But will it ever be like it is inside Europe, promotion, relegation, et cetera, I don't know.
Yeah.
They're going to have to make some decisions. They're going to have to make some decisions on that. Given the economics of what it takes to actually launch a franchise, it's really difficult to say, hey, great, give me $500 million and you can go in. But if you lose your first year, you're dropping down.
You're dropping.
That's a tough sell, right?
It's hard to sell.
So I understand the pros and the cons on both sides. So just watch the space. Watch the space because it's going to be fun. It's going to be fascinating.
Exciting. Wonderful. Well, Qooligan, as always, we've bounced around the world of soccer, all of the games that are coming up this weekend, and obviously as well some of the news and some of the narrative around it as well. Until then, we will be back again early next week, obviously looking into the next round of the Champions League that is coming up, and also sort of looking at that. So it's busy, lots of stuff.
So much happening.
Wonderful. All right, Qooligan, thanks as always. Till next time.
Peace.